Seattle launched a new drug program to deal with addicts as opposed to the old model of just throwing them in a cage. And the results are really interesting and really positive. So the program launched in 2011, and instead of harsh punishments, they, quote, bolster addicts' welfare in order to decrease crime and initiate rehabilitation. So Policy Mike explains about this, quote, 4 years in, there are already signs that the system works better in Seattle's most deeply drug trade-afflicted neighborhoods than the usual path of deprivation. So here are the details. A social worker stops by the precinct, asks the offender some questions about her life, and produces paperwork for her to sign. From that point on, the offender is no longer an offender. The arrest is wiped from her record. She receives access to housing assistance, clean clothes, tuition for school, job referrals, health care, counseling, and many other benefits and services. All she has to do is meet with her social worker twice in the first month of signing up. She doesn't even have to stop using drugs. So, of course, if a conservative looks at that, what would they say? They just laugh you out of the room. They might reject this on the idea alone. Like, they wouldn't even say, oh, I don't think that's going to work, but let me see the data. They would just, fuck no, get out of here. That's stupid. Because, look, the idea is give them all the help that they need, all of it, and don't even, the only thing you're asking is go to the social worker twice and that's it. And you don't even ask them, hey, stop taking drugs. You don't even ask them that. You just say, you do whatever the fuck you want, but here's a shitload of help. So, of course, the response, that's a uber liberal, pie in the sky, stupid way to approach it, and I guarantee you people are going to take advantage of that system, right? Here's how it worked. Quote, a new study from the University of Washington has found that, compared with a control group who went down the typical arrest and prosecution path, people who worked with this program were 34% to 58% less likely to have committed new crimes since their first arrest. 34% to 58% less likely to commit new crimes. Yeah, I believe we call that successful. And it's not just like, it's my opinion it's successful. No, that's why we do studies. That's why we quantitatively look at these things. We get numbers, we get data, we get facts. And now we know, factually speaking, people are better off and the system is better and people get rehabilitated more if you have a system where you don't treat people who do drugs like they're criminals and you lock them in cages. I mean, this is, at this point, it's really a no-brainer. I mean, look at Portugal, for example. They said that this program was basically a pseudo-copy of what they did in Portugal, where they decriminalized all drugs. And in Portugal, what's happened since they did that? Conservatives would say, I bet drug use went up. It went down. They decriminalized all drugs. They treated addicts like they have a medical problem, and addiction rates went down, usage rates went down, and also you just have the added moral benefit and moral gain of you're not taking away people's freedom and liberty anymore for putting in their body a substance that they chose to put in their body. I mean, you know what it is? Everybody, or I should say a lot of people, are really harsh on drug users and the idea of that until it's somebody they know and until it's somebody in their family. Then people go, oh, really? They're going to lock up Jerry for 12 years because they caught him with coke? That seems a little harsh. Well, now we have programs that are popping up where they're like, let's not do that. Let's help Jerry. Let's, give this person some money, some opportunities. Let's give them support, and let's not even have any strings attached. Do whatever you want, and here's some support, and we'll see what you make of it. And you know what happens? People are people. You know how people react when you give them help when they're down? They appreciate it. They go, oh, wow, society didn't say, fuck you to me. They said, we're here to help you. We're going to lift you up. So you almost feel like in that situation, I might owe them something back. And all you owe them back is stay relatively successful and start going down a somewhat normal path of having a job and being happy. That's it. I mean, look, if it's not enough just from a principled perspective of stop taking away people's freedom for doing a substance, that's enough for me. But for some people, that's not enough. Well, then you got to look at the evidence and you got to look at the data and you got to see what the reality is. And the reality is that if you treat people who are addicted like they are addicted and like it's a medical problem and you don't put them in jail, you're going to get better results. People respond to getting proper help. If you just put them in a cage and say, now we're going to let you rot there for a few years, they get out, and oftentimes they're more hardened criminals because the only people who were there to support them when they were behind bars were the fellow criminals. Do you really want people who do drugs mingling with, people who may have done harder crimes, robbery, assault, murder, rape, whatever, and then they become hardened criminals? Or do you want to treat people who do substances and who are addicted in a way that you show them respect and you give them another opportunity? Look, you guys know me, man. I'm one of those people who sometimes I think you should do punishment for certain crimes. Sometimes I think you should do rehabilitation for certain crimes. Sometimes it's a mix of both. So I'm a moderate on the issue of criminal justice. But when you look at something like this, people who are addicted and who have issues with drugs, and you look at the data and you see, if you help them, they get better, why wouldn't you go down that path if we know that that's true?